in. Let's bring in our guest for this hour, trial attorney Tray Gober. Tray, this is a difficult case when it comes to self-defense because it's he said, they said. What are you going to be listening to in this opening statement?
I'm going to hear for evidence of legitimate fear that the defendant had when he thought that it was appropriate to stay in that position to basically lay out his defense. The defense is going to basically admit, yeah, he did it, but he had a right to do it under self-defense. And so that's exactly what the details of that's what we're going to be listening for.
And before we get you back into the courtroom for those opening statements, let's bring in our analyst standing by, trial attorney Tray Gober. I would love to get your opinion on how things are going. We've got a victim here, 17 years old, Isaac Schumann, who was planning to go to college, according to his family, and be an electrical engineer. On the other side of the courtroom, we have the defendant who was surrounded, it seems, in some of these pictures by a bunch of people, and he's someone who doesn't have a criminal record. What are your thoughts on what we've seen so far?
I think the prosecutor is doing an amazing job of taking an otherwise, complex situations with so many people involved and really making it simple for the jury to see and understand what happened. Most importantly, at the end of the day, the defendant approached the group of boys. He was so unconcerned about his safety. I thought it was really telling. He was protecting his goggles and holding them in his mouth at the time. But if somebody is approaching because they're in fear of their life, they're not worried about their goggles to know where they went. He approached the situation. He created the situation. The boys were yelling stuff at him that they shouldn't have been yelling at him. The boys had been drinking. They shouldn't have been drinking. But sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. Will be the closing statement of the prosecution in this case. No justification.
The cell phone that's missing, I'm keeping that in my mind when I'm looking at this video, Tray. Is he looking for this cell phone and perhaps being in an inappropriate personal space of these young people and not realizing it? Is that something that the jury might take into account?
Possibly, but at the end of the day, again, it's a prioritization of property over people. And the cell phone, the goggles, they're just not worth it. They're not worth the confrontation. They're not worth hurting other people. I think that most members of the jury will believe the same thing. So it's a steep hill for the defense to say that this was self-defense when it was a situation that in large part was created by the defendant. And as the prosecution said, why didn't he just walk away?
Those screenshots and that cell phone video is going to speak loudly. Tray, thanks so much for those comments. Let's get back into the courtroom. More of the state's opening statement in the case against Nikolai Mew.